everybody. It's a privilege for me to open God's Word once again together in this series that we have called Rebuilding in Faith. And we are going through the book of Nehemiah, and in this moment we are in Nehemiah chapter 5. In the second part, we're going to start reading from the verse 14 to the 19th. And this is what it says in the NIV. This is what it says, and I'm going to open it in the English version. That's the one we're going to be using. Moreover, from the 20th year of the king Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, until the 32nd year, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate at the food allotted to the governor. But the earlier governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver, it's like 20 pounds of silver, from their addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over the people. But out of reverence for God, I did not act like that. Instead, I devoted myself to the work of this wall. All my men were assembled there for the work. We did not acquire any land. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations. Each day, 1 ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me, and every 10 days an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governor, because the demands were heavy on these people. Let's stop right there. You know, a couple of days ago, I was with a group of pastors, and as we age and as we are serving the Lord and giving our best, one of the questions that sometimes happens to be in our heads is this even worthy? Do I make a difference in the place where I am? And so we were reminded there, thanks to the Lord for those that it speaks to us, brings us to the solid foundation that is the word. It comes from 1 Corinthians 15:58. It says, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourself fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain." So who's like Paul talking to? It's talking to the whole church, not just few leaders, to a pastor here and there. He's talking to the whole church. So the call to give yourself fully to the work of the Lord, it's always to the church. So if it's fully for the church, that means that it applies to me. It applies to all of us. It requires that we live according to how Jesus has called us. So it's incredible that we can see Nehemiah, because Nehemiah, some people says, is a form of Christ, meaning like shows characteristics and attributes and way of living as Jesus did. So I'm challenging you to see which one are the things that you see in Nehemiah's example that shadows Jesus, that shows types of Jesus, that shows examples of Jesus. And when I was right there studying, I was looking and wondering what made Nehemiah, what empowered Nehemiah to live this way. What made Nehemiah be able to live 12 years in this manner? Well, if we open Nehemiah chapter 1, one of his of the prayer, the opening prayer that led to this crazy journey, was that he knew that the people of Israel end up in that condition because of disobedience, of walking in our own ways. So his journey is to go back and restore not just the wall, but restore the walk of the people of God. So he lived generously. He was able to live generously because he was fully in love with God. And I know that when I live fully in love with God, and I show my love to God by obeying God's word, is when I am living that way, naturally I will love people. I will live to love the Lord and expressing the love to the Lord, obeying Him and blessing others. So his generosity flows out of that. Now look at this. He lived making a difference by being an example to the people around him. He devoted himself to the work of the wall. He did not say, hey, you go work. He was just part of it. He was with the other people. He not only did that, but he helped others to be saved from slavery, from the Gentiles, that what we saw last week in verse 10. That not only him, but others too did the same thing. He helped others by lending money also. He also helped, like when they helped them, were trying to prevent them from being a slave and helping them to be able to continue focusing on the work that God has called them, that it was to rebuild the wall. Not only that, but he didn't use his right and his privilege to demand money for him, but he denied himself of that privilege. He said, I will not do that. I will not, because the people are already suffering. He said, it says like something interesting also is that he and his people, he did not buy any property. Why wouldn't he be buying any property? But just because he didn't use his knowledge or his position in order to benefit himself. He was not looking to benefit himself, but to be a blessing. So that is really interesting. And that I love it when I see is that not only he did not exercise his right to earn money or use his position to become wealthier, or like despite of what other people can do, but he was willing to also use of his own reserves to be able to feed other people. There were 150 people at his table. That has to be a long table, and food. And so how much it cost to feed all the people, it was not measured based on how much money, but based on what it was served and the amount of things that are served at this table. Then he used his resources to rescue, help, provide space for others to be able to recharge, and he used all that just to be able to be a blessing. He also would continue by providing this. Like, think about this. Let's pause right here for a minute, because it's not just that he did all this, but if you think how tired somebody can be after working so much, what will be the normal response? If you sit down, is just to value the work done by restoring their strength and bringing a sense of affirmation and provision and an environment that can connect and be whole. It's not just that life is not just work and accumulation, but it's also community. So what can we learn from the example of Nehemiah? Nehemiah showed us that in the same way as Jesus called us, is to live incarnationally, to be among other people. Or nowadays, we hear many people complaining and debating and talking about all the things that are wrong. And maybe around your table, there are many things that happened that you are complaining and looking at all the things that are wrong in this world, maybe all the things that are wrong in the church, maybe all the things that are wrong in this ministry or that ministry. But that is not the example that Jesus gives us, and neither the example that Nehemiah shows us. That he was like... Nehemiah was not always mad, and Jesus was not always mad. He was making points, and the points that he was making is that he lived to be the difference. Nehemiah lived and left everything just to be with the people and make the difference in the place where he was at. And how did he make the difference? Is by modeling it. You cannot model something that you're not convinced of. You cannot model something for shows. You cannot model or bring transformation to a place when you are afraid that somebody might get the wrong idea. You cannot bring change to a place that you don't care for. You cannot bring a transformation, a real change of a place if your heart is not full of love of God. Because if I do all the things, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 talks about that if I can do all the things, but if I don't have love, they are meaningless. Even I can put my body to be burned, but if I do that without love, doesn't mean anything. So be careful that your actions spring out of a heart full of love for God. And may His love pour out from you. So maybe you're tired. Maybe you are like grumpy. Maybe you are wondering if all your efforts are worthy. So you are just trying to wonder, and you are wondering if all your work has been in vain. I just want to let you know it's not in vain, because that service has been given to the Lord and to others, and God always uses that to strengthen, to reminds us, and to bring life into the situation where we're living. Nehemiah was talking because he was not demanding others to do something that he was not willing to do. And sometimes we find what is wrong, but we cannot live, and we don't model what looks like to be different, living differently. How does it look like to be a person of God? It's not definitely just to celebrate on one day and then isolate myself from everybody else, or not helping others, or not loving others. So practically, how does it look like to say no to my own rights and desires and opportunities so others can be blessed? It can look like as simple as I'm giving of my time, and I'm doing it gratefully and cheerfully, and I'm gonna do my best. Maybe it looks like that I'm already teaching something, and I want to be better at it, so I'm gonna take a training to be able to do it better. Maybe it looks like that you don't take advantage of your position that you're at to just make your name better or bigger. Maybe it has to do that you just need to go and sit down with somebody, that you need to hear somebody. Maybe it means that instead of thinking that people are using of your resources, maybe they are, I don't know, but that you use your resources to be somebody that expresses love through your resources, inviting somebody over. And when you invite somebody over to your house, just don't give the least you can give. Be generous, be kind, be loving, put thought into what you're doing. I know that everybody's running, but how would it take to just to slow down and think what would be, how can I love them in a way that I can understand? When maybe it can be that you are providing a space for somebody to have a break, that you can I don't know, help a mom that has so many kids and say, hey, just I'll came to here to take your kids for a minute so you can take a nap, or you can I don't know, just read something or go for a little walk. How about that if we help, I don't know, we provide an environment for kids to be able to be kids. How about those kids that among our community that they have disadvantages or have disabilities? Provide a place for them to be able to play, and provide a place for them to be able to have fun and be recognized and be cheered on. Life is not easy for them. How would it look like to help the elderly? How would it look like to... What is the Lord putting in your heart? There are many ways to do it, but I just don't want to be in a position where I'm giving excuses why not to do what Jesus is calling me. Because the examples are right here. And you know that the work that we do for the Lord is not in vain. So if you don't know where to start, I won't tell you that the first starting point is fall in love with Jesus. Because everything springs out of there. Then I want to encourage you that what you do for the Lord matters. It's never in vain. The other thing that I can tell you is that the money that we have, or the money we can make, is not for us to make the center of us. Because if we make the center of our position of how much money we have created money an idol. Money is just simply a tool. It means to accomplish a purpose. And we can do that just be able to bless. How much did it cost Nehemiah? Nehemiah might have had deep pockets to be able to do what he did. But you know that if you don't have deep pockets, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. It means that you can do your service in another degree, in another way. Nehemiah said, everything what I have belongs to the Lord. He's a steward. He says, he's a steward when I am a governor. Because I'm governing, being mindful of what my people can or cannot. Make sure that what you do springs out of love and not out of duty. And I want to encourage you that if you want to see change, may you go to the Lord and be the agent of change that others can look and imitate. Be consistent. It's not just one at a time. It takes time. Give time to others and multiple opportunities. And you know, it's always worthy to give ourselves to the Lord. It's never in vain. I'm reminding of that portion of the very, very, very known. Maybe you didn't watch the movie The Schindler's List, but maybe you have heard this part of the movie when Mr. Schindler is at the end of it, and he have saved over 1,100 people from going into concentration camps. And he looks around and everybody was trying to cheer him up, but the only thing that he could see was that he could have sold the car. He has the car could have, he was not looking his possessions as things to glorify himself, but he started to see his possessions and his belongings, and the value of them could have equal certain amount of people that could have been saved. And he was regretting just not doing that. We could have said 11 more, and 2 more here, and 3 here, and 3 here, and he was crying because he was realizing that still he can give more. So I want to ask you that may you let Jesus change our hearts, because our tendency is always to think, what's the minimum that I can give? What's the minimum that Jesus is asking me? And that is not how Jesus asks us to be living. Jesus asks us to live listening to him and obeying and asking, responding to him to what is he asking you to give. Maybe it's time, maybe it's possessions, maybe it's talents, maybe it's attention, maybe it's protection, maybe it's care, maybe it's some wisdom, maybe it's more than that. I don't know. But everything that you do may spring out of heart that is love for Jesus. You know, you have ways to be an agent of change very practically every day. May the Lord use you to be his hands and feet, whatever he placed you.